Today we're going to talk about letting go, which is something that sounds like a practice and a process that you're familiar with. And it is also the title of the last book that Dr. David Hawkins wrote. And it's, as far as I'm concerned, a masterpiece. I've mentioned it before, and I think it is absolutely spectacular and profound in its meaning. And I'm going to start with a question for you. Does everything go exactly the way that you want? Does everything in your experience of life go exactly the way you want? And the answer is pretty universally no. There's always something. And that's because life is complicated. Now, the reason that life is complicated is because creation is complicated. Now, we talk about the one divine power and presence, the one love that connects everything, that we are all individualizations of that one. And as individualizations of the one, it is easy to see how perfection is unfolding. However, there are billions and billions and billions, trillions, gazillions of moving parts. That one divine source, has been sharing itself as creation for what the scientists tell us is 14.2 billion years, and it could be much longer than that. The limitation might not be the years, it might be the scientists, and that story can change. But over time, that one divine power and presence has been evolving and unfolding and revealing itself in all sorts of different ways. And we get to interact. We get to continue to interact and bump into and unfold into new experiences. And there is a difference between what we desire, what we want, what we prefer, and our experience. Sometimes what we experience is not what we would prefer. And that's where the game starts. And I say the game, the Buddhists call it human suffering. Human suffering is the gap or the chasm between what we desire to experience and what we are actually experiencing. And we've all had that. There's been stuff that has happened. You know, I said, does everything go exactly the way that you want? And the answer is no. We've had experiences where there's that delta, that difference, that gap between what we've been experiencing and what we choose. Some people, I've noticed, focus on that gap. They complain. They live in drama. There are some people who just love the drama, the story, and they are perfectly happy to tell the story over and over and over again about their experience in the chasm. And it's really easy to be judgmental of them, and it's really even easier to pretend like we're never them. Although sometimes that happens as well. And it's our opportunity to understand where that gap is and turn away from the suffering and get into a process of letting go where it's not going to control us as much. So, and I'm going to tell you the letting go process that David Hawkins introduced. And it's funny, I was studying this book for 8 months in a group last year. No, it wasn't last year. It started last year, but it went through earlier this year. And he keeps on talking about the letting go process, and he introduces it very subtly, without any fanfare at all, on page 19. And then you go through the rest of the book, and he keeps on talking about this process. And if you glossed over it, or if you didn't realize how significant it was on page 19, it's like, when's he going to tell me what this is? You're like looking to get to the end of the book. No, it's on page 19. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but right now I'm going to talk about the invitation. This is a poem that was written by, I think she's Lakota, Araya Mountain Dreamer. And I've been familiar with this poem for probably 25 years. And it is wonderful. I was involved in a men's group for a while, and every time the group met, somebody would read the invitation. And Araya Mountain Dreamer wrote a book based on the poem that she had created. And the beginning of the book, in a lot of ways, is about letting go. She writes, "Once in a while we're given a moment of real grace. Sometimes during my early morning meditations, a place within me opens and parts of myself let go that I did not even know I was holding on to. In these moments, I feel all the hard places in my heart and body yield to a great softness carried on my breath. And I'm filled with compassion for the part of me that is always trying, always organizing, problem-solving, anticipating. and my mind stops and simply follows my breath. A great faith washes through me, a knowing that everything that needs to get done will get done. My shoulders drop an inch. A small but familiar ache in my chest eases, and the moment stretches. There is enough. Enough time, enough energy, enough of all that's needed. A great tenderness for myself and the world opens inside of me, and I know I belong to this time, to these people, to this earth, and to something that is both within and larger than all of it. Something that sustains and holds us all. I do not want to be anywhere else. I'm filled with commitment to and compassion for myself and the world. Rising from my cushion, I move unhurriedly towards my day. As I step into the bathroom, I catch a glimpse of the quiet half-smile on my face, dissolving into a grimace of disgust as cold water soaks through my clean white socks. All semblance of graceful ease shatters in the shrill cry of the banshee as I survey the aftermath of my teenage son's showers. Pools of water on the tile floor, several wet towels in a heap in the corner, others twisted onto the towel rack in configurations that could not possibly dry before the end of the millennium. The shower curtain half in, half out of the tub, bunched and folded to maximize the growth of mildew and mold. Later, after cleaning up, my younger son, Nathan, speaks to me as I sit in the kitchen with a cup of hot tea. "I know we shouldn't leave the bathroom such a mess, Mom," he says, cautiously trying to sound reasonable. "But I think leaving wet towels on the floor is probably pretty normal behavior for teenage boys. Not that we should do it," he adds hurriedly, as I pierce him with a look over the rim of my cup. "But if that's the worst thing that we do, you really don't have too much to worry about, do you?" Can't help but laugh. He's right, of course. This is the reality we live, aspiring to be at our best, longing for and sometimes finding meaning and connection within ourselves and with that which is larger than ourselves, and we're undone by messy bathrooms, traffic jams, and burnt toast. I'm not interested in a spirituality that cannot encompass my humanness. I find little comfort or guidance in traditional dogma or unqualified New Age optimism. That's how she starts the book. And the process is that something happens. And then we experience what's happening. We observe it. We have a feeling. Then we have a thought about the feeling. Then we have an emotion, our emotional reaction to the thought. And then we can get into what we're going to do to fix it, what we're going to do to change it, what we're going to do to make it different. One of the downsides of the New Thought teaching, especially that there's just this one divine presence, this one limitless love, is that something happens, we experience it, we have that feeling, and then we immediately try to convince ourselves that it's okay. Oh, it's all good. It's love unfolding. There's something wonderful in here, instead of being with the feeling. And it's wonderful to know that there's one, and that we can get to that place where that divine creative power is going to create this newness in our life to uplift us and to bring the pieces back together in a way that's uplifting and comfortable and harmonious and prosperous and loving and comfortable and healthy and vital and vigorous and creative and gentle and loving and well-paying. But it doesn't necessarily happen just because we dismiss the feeling. The term for that is spiritual bypass. Of having something bad happen. Oh, it's all good. I was with a teen group. They would refer to that as RSBS. Our teaching is called religious science, and they would call it RSBS. So the process of being with the feeling and not getting wrapped up in that reaction to it is a remarkable process. And this is what's on page 19 of the book, Letting Go. Letting go involves being aware of a feeling, letting it come up, and staying with it, letting it run its course without wanting to make it be different or to do anything about it. It means simply to let the feeling be there and to focus on letting out the energy behind it. That's the process. How can that possibly be helpful? How can it possibly be helpful when somebody says something or does something or something happens and I get upset about it? to just stay there with the upset, to feel hurt or humiliated or angry, and just stay there with the feeling. We want to fix it. We want to change it. We want to rationalize it. We want to justify it. We want to make it go away. And it is the process of pushing it away that keeps it around. Hawkins continues, the first step is to allow yourself to have the feeling without resisting it, venting it, fearing it, condemning it, or moralizing about it. It means to drop judgment and to see that it is just a feeling. The technique is to be with the feeling and surrender all efforts to modify it in any way. Let go of wanting to resist the feeling. It is resistance that keeps the feeling going. When you give up resisting or trying to modify the feeling, it will shift to the next feeling and be accompanied by a lighter sensation. A feeling that is not resisted will disappear as the energy behind it disappears. Try it. When a feeling comes up, anger or resentment, or you pick it, whatever feeling comes up for you, instead of condemning them or rationalizing what you've done or anything else, be with it. Sit with it. Go with it. And what the people in the group that I was studying with found is usually it takes about a minute, minute and a half. And the energy behind the feeling goes away. And everything else stays the same, but the energy is different. Hawkins says, as you begin this process, you'll notice that you have fear and guilt over having feelings, if there will be resistance, and there will be resistance to feelings in general. To let feelings come up, it is easier to let go of the reaction to having the feelings in the first place. A fear of fear itself is a prime example of this. Let go of the fear or guilt that you have about the feeling first, then get into the feeling itself. This is so simple to read. And it is not necessarily easy to do. When letting go, ignore all thoughts. Focus on the feeling itself, not on the thoughts. Thoughts are endless and self-reinforcing, and they only tend to breed more thoughts. Thoughts are merely rationalizations of the mind to try and explain the presence of the feeling. The real reason for the feeling is the accumulated pressure behind the feeling that is forcing it to come up in the moment. The thoughts or eternal events are only an excuse made up by the mind. It is a tremendously powerful technique. We don't need to change the stuff that's going on in order to be okay. We can be okay, and then something can happen that can invite us off balance. And we can be okay with the feeling that we have when that thing happens. And let go of the attachment. Oh, I can fix this. I can change this. Oh, I can blame somebody. Oh, now I've got a story that my ego can tell the next time I'm in a gossip group. We can let it go. And this is not an invitation to get walked over. The world doesn't work that way. But the experience that we have changes. The experience of life that we have changes by changing this process, by engaging differently when something happens. Because I think I mentioned earlier, life is complicated and something's going to happen. Things happen. Stuff happens. And we get to choose how we're going to engage with it. Am I going to get wrapped around the axle about the things that happen? Or am I going to engage in a spiritually uplifting process that allows me to deal with the wet towels on the floor without losing myself and my center? I'm going to read the invitation. And if you've heard this before, just let the word sink in. And if you've never heard it, then congratulations, because this is, as far as I'm concerned, something wonderful. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you've touched the center of your own sorrow, if you've been opened by life's betrayals, or become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with the wildness and let ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you are telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself, if you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul, if you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it's not pretty every day, and if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand at the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the full moon, yes. It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. By letting go, we have an opportunity to embrace, to let love unfold in a new and uplifting way. I am so delighted to be able to share this with you and to know that each of us is making those wonderful choices, taking that action to let go of what's not serving us, to be present with the feelings and let them dissipate, rather than letting those feelings become the energy that we're sharing with the world and bring feelings to other people. We each have an opportunity to do this. Let's make this a week of it. Let's make this day a start of it. You are a blessing, and you have the opportunity to carry that blessing even more brightly into the world. Let it be. So it is.